And a welcome to this episode of Genesis Week, the weekly program of creationary commentary on news, views, and events pertaining to the Origins controversy. We continue to bring you the information the anti-creationists don't want you to see or hear, and giving glory to our Creator while doing it. We believe God gave you an intelligently designed brain because He wants you to use it. Remember, if you get lost in cyberspace, you can just punch in wazulu.com or genesisweek.com and you will find us. And also subscribe to our YouTube channel to get extras like Crevo rants and full interviews with our guests. I'm your host, Ian Juby. Conveniently in theme with the rest of the show this week, I got a question in from Christina in Alberta. Dear Ian, was there really two of every kind of animal on the Ark? How is this possible? Isn't there tons of different species that haven't been discovered yet, and from all areas all over the globe? How did Noah collect them all, and how did he get them all in there? It's blowing my mind. Thanks for writing in, Christina. That is an excellent question, and a loaded one, too. Now let's dissect it. First of all, just how many animals would Noah have needed to bring on the Ark? Now, while there is an incredible number of species, certainly over 1 million, notice that the vast majority of them survive just fine in the water. In fact, the vast majority live in the water, and thus Noah would not need to take them on board the Ark. Now, think about it. Fish, sea plants, squid, sea insects, crabs, clams, lobsters, whales and dolphins, sea anemones, sharks, etc. Just take a quick look at invertebrate zoology sometime to get a quick grasp on the incredible variations of invertebrate sea critters alone. Now, many of those not falling into those categories would still survive a flood just fine, such as most amphibians, many reptiles like turtles, crocodiles, alligators, etc. So, what kind of numbers would you need to take on board the Ark? Now, you need to understand, as we discussed in past shows, the dog kinds could all come from one dog kind, something like a wolf. From there, all the dog kinds arise into the variations we have today. Now, this is not upwards-onwards evolution. This is variation within the kind, which we discussed previously. Thousands of years of evolution has caused dogs to evolve into dogs. Suffice it to say, though, only one pair of dogs is needed to represent all the dog kinds we have today. Now, even that word species was invented by a creationist, Carl Linnaeus, who was trying to classify life forms for simplicity's sake. It had absolutely nothing to do with evolution, nor evolutionary ascent. In fact, he named them species because he believed they were specially created. My friend Tom Hennigan just recently published a paper dealing with the problem of identifying species and kinds strictly relating to amphibians. Thankfully, the paper is open source and available here. That'll give you an idea of the challenges facing definition of both species and kinds. Now, Morris and Whitcomb, in their landmark book, The Genesis Flood, figured Noah needed to take no more than 35,000 animals on board the Ark. John Wood Morphy's book, Noah's Ark, A Feasibility Study, is an excellent book I'd highly recommend. Now, in there, he actually estimated as low as 2,000, but probably as many as 16,000 animals were needed. Now, we're going to go with 50,000 animals, just for fun. So how much space would that require on board the Ark? Not a whole lot, actually. Now, of course, I would claim that Noah brought even the largest land animals on board the Ark, the dinosaurs, elephants, etc. However, Noah would have brought babies on board for multiple reasons. They take less space, they eat less, drink less, they don't go to the bathroom much. We like that. They sleep lots. When they get off the Ark, they have a full reproductive lifespan ahead of them. Now, comparing this hadrosaur egg to just the skull of a full-grown hadrosaur, you can see the dinosaurs started off really, really small and got really, really big. But even taking into account the adult sizes of the animals, the average size of all of the animals still comes in only about the size of a sheep. So taking the measurements of the ark provided in the Bible, the ark works out to about the equivalent volume of 596 railroad boxcars. Now, a typical double-decker stock-carrying boxcar can hold about 240 sheep. So, to accommodate 50,000 animals would still only take up the equivalent of 209 railroad cars, or less than 2/5 of the entire volume of the ark, leaving the other half of the ark for food, water, building supplies for the future, etc. The bottom line is there was lots of room on the ark. But how did Noah get animals from the different continents if he was building the ark in, say, the Middle East? The Bible also implies that God brought the animals to Noah. Now, interestingly, during the horrible tsunami of Indonesia, while some 300,000 people were killed, yet there were essentially no animals killed. The animals somehow knew danger was approaching and fled to higher ground, escaping the disaster. So why wouldn't the animals know that a worldwide flood was coming? So then, how did the animals disperse after the flood and get to all the different continents? Well, it's ironic that the anti-creationists attempt to use this as an argument against Noah's flood. They will point to the marsupials, like the duck-billed platypus in Australia. They will claim that the platypus evolved there, and that's why they're only found in Australia. However, when a platypus fossil is found in Argentina, a completely different continent, guess what they say? Oh, they must have migrated there when there was land bridges. Now, we creationists readily accept that there was land bridges after the flood, probably for hundreds of years. There are thousands of mountains under the oceans called table mounts. Now, these are mountains that have been planed off flat by water action. Yet these planed surfaces are 1,000 to 2,000 meters, 3,000 to 6,000 feet below sea level. So, for a time at least, the ocean levels were thousands of meters lower than they are now. Now, if you lower the oceans by a mere 100 meters, 300 feet, you have land bridges connecting almost every continent. That's right, you could walk from China to Australia, to South America, North America, and if you or a herd of animals walk a mere 1 mile per day for 10 years, you have walked 3,650 miles. You can walk from Mexico to Alaska, or from Canada to China. So, as you can see, getting the animals to and from the ark is a non-issue. In fact, any anti-creationist who tries to argue otherwise inadvertently shoots themselves in the foot, because they must apply the very same reasoning to their beliefs that we do, except they claim the land bridges were around for millions of years, not hundreds. So why didn't the marsupials migrate to other parts of the planet? They certainly had enough time. I hope that answers your questions, Christina.